Okay, thanks all for joining here. So today, just a minute, sorry. Okay, okay. Myself, Gnanshekharan. So I'm working as a senior DevOps engineer in Rakuten Asia, in Singapore. Today, I'm gonna talk about a little bit about CI/CD. So mainly on how we can use Jenkins, Spring Boot config server, and Ansible for our CI/CD automation purpose. So majority of the people may think that the Spring Boot config server can be used for application side, but we can use for the Ansible deployment automation as well. That's how I'm going to cover today. So yeah. So today's part of agenda, so these are the things I'm going to cover. So one thing is, so what is the common problem we have when it comes to CI/CD? How the Spring Boot config server is going to help to proceed on CI/CD automation. And then I'm going to give the overview of my demo, so how it is being set up. Then I'm going through the demo part. So what's the common problem we have? So if we take the majority of the teams or organizations will have a development team, we have a QA team and a DevOps team. So most of the times, so each team is working individually. It means that the collaboration or the platform or tools between these teams is varying on various stages. So we are trying to focus. Why can't we use a same tool or same platform? So whatever dev team is using and QA team is using and the DevOps team using, so that the platform will be robust and the reusable one. We have varieties of tools, and today I'm going to talk about the Jenkins job. So most of the people they maintain about the Jenkins tool. So mainly they will create the platform manually, and the jobs also created manually, and there are so much complications involved when you have the manual things set up. So first thing we have to consider how we going to automate our complete CI/CD platform. So that is one part, but today we are not going to touch about today. So but I'm just highlighting one of the common problems. So another major problem today we're going to see about so how we are going to maintain application variables. So we have multiple environments, we have multiple projects, we have multiple teams. So how we are going to maintain these variables? Um, if you are talk about for the deployment automation, so majority we have for non-container applications. So we have Ansible for deployment automation. So Ansible is providing host-OS and group-OS concept, but still there are many cases this host-OS and group-OS is not able to address, or it is more complicated way the maintaining in a host-OS and group-OS within Ansible itself. So what we are going to do instead of maintaining in the Ansible group-OS and host-OS, so we're going to use Spring Boot config server for our variable purpose. So yeah, that's the CI/CD part of integration. So how we going to integrate all the things, that's what we're going to see next slide. So first thing, I will just give the overview of what is Spring Boot config server, and then later I will go into further details. So what is Spring Boot config server? So Spring Boot config server, it is a simple Java application, and where it can helping to maintain your application variables or configuration in a distributed system. So you can maintain your all variables or configurations in a common platform, so that can be easily scalable and easily adaptable. For a Spring Boot config server, we have a background with Git. So all your variables will be in a Git. we are using Spring Boot config server REST APIs to fetch the variables from the Git. So the Git can be like a GitHub or a Bitbucket, wherever we can maintain. That's about Spring Boot config server. So I will give a more detail on my demo. So how the Spring Boot config server can be used. So today, part of my demo, so what we're going to talk about, this is our main setup. So how we're going to set up our CI/CD platform, how we're going to integrate all these tools. So mainly our source code will be in a GitHub. Jenkins will be fetching that source code, and it is building the application, and then it is publishing to the Artifactory. For deployment, we're going to use Ansible. So the Ansible is going to talk about Spring Boot config server to get specific variables. And then we're going to see the insights of the CI/CD platform using Elasticsearch and the Kibana. So that's how our setup will be. So I will go through the demo. Yeah. So that's not from theory point of view. So I want to more cover with the demo side. So let's go into the demo side so that it will be very clear. So first I will cover with the config server. From that we'll go one by one. So currently, let me ensure my application is running Spring Boot config server. Okay, just a moment. Let me ensure here. Okay. Okay. So my application is running now. So we can see this is a Spring Boot config server where I have done a Docker Compose setup. So whatever I shown in the slide. So we'll have a config server, we have a Kibana, we have a Elasticsearch, we have a Jenkins, and then Ansible. So it's all set up through Docker Compose setup. So let me go through here. So the Spring Boot config server. So all my variables that I'm keeping, let's consider I belongs to a demo project. Okay, let's assume the scenario like this. So I belongs to a demo project. So under the demo project, we'll have a multiple applications. So instead of maintaining the variables in an Ansible way, so we splitting the variables and we are storing in a Git. So instead of maintaining all the variables in one repo, so better what I suggest. So let's segregate the variables. So let's split based on a group wise or some team wise, and then you keep the variables separately, so that each team can maintain their variables. They can raise their PR and they can work individually. So no need to um, think about if you keep all the variables. So which variable will be transferred to my target application? That will make it more complicated or confusion. So let's keep project-based repos here, and then let's keep variables in our GitHub. I configured my Spring Boot config server to fetch the variables under a conf folder. So that I will show where we have to say that, but that's. So here, if you see, this is my demo project. Under that, you may have a multiple applications. Let's say the Hello is one of the application I'm currently considering. When you talk about the environments, we may have a multiple environments. We can have a stage environment, and then we have a production environment. Even when it goes to production environment, we can say first set of production servers or second set of production servers, or we can consider like this. So we can have pre-prod servers, and then a production servers, something like that. So this is the default variables. So let's say you will have a set of variables. So that all the default variables has to go part of your application.yaml. That is the default variable. Let's consider whatever variable you think that it may vary based on the environment or application that you have to override on each profile. So here, after hyphen, so whatever it is coming, that's called a profile here. Let's say this here, if you see the stage is one profile, hello is a one profile. So it is application, but still it here, the Spring Boot point of view, it is a profile. And then we have a PRD as a profile, and we have multiple profiles. Let's quickly take a look what is there and each. In a stage profile, I'm just saying, so whatever variable it is varying based on that environment, I'm going to override. I'm not declaring all the variables again from my default application.yaml. I'm just declaring whichever is varying here. So if you see here, only these two variables is varying for me. So I'm declaring only these two variables, and then I'm just overriding those values. The same way, when it is goes to production, let's say for production, so I put the target env as one. And then for hello.yaml, I'm just saying my application name is hello. And let's take this profile once. So in here, the main part is coming here. If you see here in prod1, so I put a group name as prod1, but here I don't want to run in my application. Let's say my application is running in a default port with 8000, but when it goes to production, I'm saying that here to run on 9001. So whichever variable is deviating from the default profile, that we are overriding on each stage. So this will be a big advantage where you'll have so many components. You will have your DB components. You will have your application, or you may have a Tomcat. You may have an Apache. So there will be so much of variables. So if you keep all the variables like a host as in a group host, that will not be more clear way, but this is like a more profile way where you can visualize easily and you can verify them easily through REST APIs. So let's go through in a REST API way. So how in Ansible host group as we have to go through manually. So what is the variable it's going in the final or a target system. So that's very hard to predict what will be my final result. But here we can, since it is providing a REST API, we can easily get to know what's things happening. So currently, let's say, as I mentioned, so currently my repo name is demo. So that's all we have to put here. After that, fetch my default variables. And then I'm saying fetch the stage environment variables. This part I will come later, the second, this part. So this is the next profile. I'm saying my target env group. So here the target env group in stage, it is both are same. And then I am saying my application. So the precedence is goes like this. So whatever it is comes last, that is taking high precedence. So whatever comes first, that is taking low precedence. There is no harm that there is no strict rule we have to follow like this, but you can override based on your need. So you can put first hello, then stage, and then whatever group you have. With this, if you see, these are the variables it is fetching from the through config server. I'm getting all my variables, and this is the thing. So let me override one of the profile and let's see how it goes. So instead of stage, I want a production profile. In production profile, I have a two groups. One is the prod one group, and still my application is hello. And let's see what is we are getting. If might have noticed, this one is got changed. So my target env is prod now. And even if you see the container name, it is coming as prod and then prod1 and then hello. So because the prod1 is coming from prod1 group and the hello is coming from the hello application profile. Even if you see the port here, the port got changed to 9001. So earlier, if you noticed, it was 8000, but now here 9001. So I will, let's get some other profile and see how it is working here. So now it is 9001. I'm switching with the group 2 variables with the prod2 here. I changed. So let's run this one. See, if you notice here, it got changed. It is 9002. The name also, it is prod2, and the target env2 is prod2. So how easy it is. So let's think about if you have so much of variables. So instead of relying on host was and group was, see how easily we are able to know what is my target variable. So there is no restriction. You can create a n number of profiles and you will be keep adding, but you have to form your REST APIs accordingly. So the common strategy or for Ansible case of, we can say almost we are following host was, group was, and then application specific variables. That's how it is categorized here. The main advantage here it is through REST API, we able to know what the things is going inside. So that's the main advantage here. So that's it about the Spring Cloud Config Server. Then now let's see how in action we're going to use this Springbootconfig Server. So let me open my local Jenkins. Sorry, here I think here it is taking some time, just a couple of seconds. Okay, it's came back. So I have the same Spring Boot config server application. Now what we are going to do, we're going to build a sample Gradle application, and we're going to publish in an Artifactory, and then we're going to form as a Docker image that and then we go and deploy into the target server. And we'll see in which are the places the Spring Boot config server is used. So this is my sample application, the same config server application. For the config server, as I mentioned, so how we are setting the properties. So here, if you notice, I'm saying where to fetch my variables. So here, if you see, I'm put the application. That means this application is a dynamic thing. So you can very well you can replace with any project name. I mean any repo name here. If you notice here, so here I'm giving this demo, but it can be any repo name. So that's the replacement here. We are using as a variable, and it can replace any repo. That's how it is structured. So let's build this application quickly and test deploy. So this application I'm using in Gradle, and I will go through based on the output one by one. Let's before that, I want to show one thing. These are the places we're going to deploy our application. So currently, if you see the stage is running on V1 and prod one is running on V1. So all the application is running on V1. Let me change the version to V2 and let's deploy the same application. For this, I need to change my source code. So here I'm putting V2. So currently it is on. So currently I'm on feature 1 branch. Okay, that should be fine. So let me come up. V2. Okay, my things are pushed. Let's build this up. Let's open in a blue ocean so that you'll get a nice view. Okay, it's taking some time to fetch from config server. So how the setup is done here. So before it's start the application, so I will go through quickly once. Here we follow a concept called the pipeline. So instead of writing a static Jenkins, instead of writing a static Jenkins pipeline, so how we are making here, we'll have a reusable framework where you no need to repeat your Jenkins pipeline for each and every application. We convert everything as a variable, and these variables will be fetched from a config server through, as we seen through that REST API, we'll get this application, this hello.yaml file. We'll pass this YAML file, we'll inject to our CI/CD framework, and then we'll be start building it. As you see here, this is the place we are saying, so when the application should be built and whether we should be going to build a Docker image or not, and then how I'm going to proceed with the Ansible deployment. So everything, it will be captured here rather than writing a static Ansible playbooks. So the playbooks also here dynamic. So everything will be given as an input in a YAML format that is used in our pipeline. So I will go through the pipeline in the end of the demo, but this is the logic here. Okay. If you see here, it is started, the application build, it is in a progress, and it is trying to publish to Artifactory. And then it is going to do a Docker build, and then it is going to do the deployment. I will come to part later. So you can see here, it is published to JFrog Artifactory. Now it is going to the Docker build. This Jenkins is a bit slow because I'm running everything locally. So actually my system is overloaded. Sorry for that. So it is building Docker image, and then it is pushing to Docker Hub. Okay, that's also done. Now it is. So now the Postgre deployment is happening. This is the place I want to show. As you see here, in the pipeline map. I given a list of playbooks that needs to be called. So currently we have a stage one default setup, and then we have a prod setup. Before that, I want to show one more thing. So currently still, if you see, it is running in the V1. Once the deployment is done, it should show V2. Let's see this part later. Okay, the deployment is started. Now you can see it is not throwing any output. That means the deployment in progress. And you can see here the container is also started creating. So it is just a 14 seconds up. Okay, probably this output will come. So it will come later. Okay, the output also came now. So it is deployed and it is currently running in a V2, but still it is not proceeded with the prod 1 and prod 2. So we'll merge our PR to the main branch, then we'll kick off our production build. So I will go through this part quickly. Here, if you see, first we are instructing here, download my configuration. So I kept my playbook here, download.yaml, so that is going to download my configurations. For that, this is the extra parameters that we have to instruct which application I should download, what is my target, the ENV group. So this all we are giving as extra values. So when it goes to production, you can see my target ENV group is prod 1, my application is hello, and the patch repo name is demo. So that's how it is, everything we making as a dynamic way instead of going in a static way. That is the main difference. Let's raise a PR and merge our code into main branch, and let's build once. So it will not take much time. Let's do it quickly. So if you have integrated with the webhook, then these things we no need to run the jobs manually, since it is everything local. I'm forced to run manually. So config server, raise a podcast. From feature 1, I'm going to merge to main branch. Okay. So we merged our PR. So currently my production is running on V1 and both are in V1. Let's see how production deployment is varies from the normal one. Okay. Go back here. Run again. So currently it is main. So let it be in main. Just running my build again. So don't confuse about this first group and the second group deployment. So I used a common term to address. So this can be like your pre-prod environment and then your production environment. So you can deploy into pre-production environment, ensure that you are not facing any issues over there. And then if everything seems fine, then you can deploy into your production. Or you can have a large group of production servers. So instead of deploying directly to all the groups, so at least you can categorize in 2 groups. So first we can deploy into very minimal groups. Let's say if we have around 10 servers, so then you first deploy into two servers, or at least in 1 server. You can verify them. If everything is okay, then you can proceed with your production deployment. So that's how it is. So based on your use case, we can pretty much define here, or we can use a specific term here. But for a common thing, we can say first group and a second group deployment. Okay, currently my for the new source code, it is built and published to Artifactory. Now it is making a Docker image. And another thing, if you notice here, the dynamic thing we are saying, right? So here, if you see, my stage is running on 8,000, whereas my on the same server, if you see how we are making dynamic way using a config server, and if you see for prod 1, it is 9,001, for prod 2 group, it is 9,002. So that's the dynamism we are achieving. And another main thing is, instead of traditional way of a Jenkins file, we are eliminating that Jenkins file also, and we are using a shared library concept. So we are making externalized variables. We are pipeline as a variable now. That's how we're calling as a pipeline map. Okay, first group deployment is started. So assume that when we are doing the first group deployment, you are taking that server from the load balancer. If it is a production, assume that it is taken out from the load balancer. Then you are doing the deployment, and then you are accessing that application, whatever you've taken out from the load balancer. You are doing something like a sanity check, or if you have some automated test cases, you can run automated test cases, part of your pipeline. If everything seems okay, then you can say proceed with the second group deployment. So again, when it goes to second group deployment also, you can do like a rolling deployment, take one server at a time and then deploy them and then attach back to your load balancer. So it's all you can control to your Ansible or whatever tool you're using. But if you use config server and Ansible, we can easily achieve this one. So if you see here, so it is deployed into first set of groups, and then it is waiting for my confirmation whether to proceed or not. Assume that at this stage, the first group deployment is not part of your production traffic. It is taken out from the production traffic. And currently it is done the latest version of the deployment, and it is waiting for your confirmation whether to proceed further or not. So that's a confirmation here. If you go back and take a look on your our demo, we can see here. So currently the prod 1 is deployed with the V2, but the rest all it is waiting for my confirmation. You can see the same thing here. The 9001, it's just deployed a minute ago. That's the status now. Now, according to me, it seems everything fine. So I'm proceeding my deployment further. Okay, so it is proceeding further. So another thing here, if you notice that whenever we write an Ansible playbook, we should consider always like whatever action you do, then once the action is done, ensure that you are writing equivalent test cases. So here, in my case, I'm writing an equivalent test case. Like, so I done the deployment and ensuring that the application is up and running. So I'm firing some REST APIs and ensuring that REST API is listening a 200 status code, and I'm ensuring first the application port is started listening or not, all the things. So this just like a best practices whenever you do through Ansible. So just keep a mind. Yeah. So now if you see it is the V2 deployed to prod 2 as well. It's just 56 seconds ago. Yeah, that's it from my end. So that's how we can use a Spring Boot config server. If you notice, we are in many places we use a Spring Boot config server. The first place is to kick off our deployment. First, we are fetching our YAML file, this hello.yaml from Git repository, and then we are passing this YAML file. We are injecting into the shared library. The shared library, everything I will keep in a GitHub, so we can. It's all open. So if you go through under my name, you can easily get this one. So I put the same name, our summit name, so Canada Summit. And there you can see all this source code and how we supposed to build. So I given the instructions for that. So you can catch up there. Yeah, that's it from my end. If you have any questions, please let me know.